Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. As many of our listeners know, we are on a crusade to bring you all the female Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belts in Australia. We have one of these for you today. Not only is she a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, she is a super high level wrestler. I've heard her described as being like a black belt in wrestling. She is representing Sydney Silverbacks. I think I've competed with her once before, way back in the day. Really looking forward to getting to know Ari Burkhart. Thanks for joining us, Ari.
Well, thank you. Tim, I did want to mention, which I should have mentioned in our little bit before, but my pronouns are they, them. And yes, I have competed in the female division still. I'm non-binary.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Thanks for letting us know that too, Ari. And I'll apologise if I do make mistakes going through, but I'll try to get it as right as I can. Hey, Ari, can you sort of go back a little bit and give us a rundown on how you got into, whether it's jiu-jitsu first or wrestling first, like what took you down that sort of a path?
Right. So I was at uni in the States in a small mountain town called Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I started with fencing, and we wanted to get more fit for fencing. So we started calisthenics, and then we got more interested in martial arts. And really, I just wanted to learn anything. I realized I wasn't particularly physically active in high school, and I really wanted that for myself in uni. And I didn't know how to defend myself. So I started looking at that after I got comfortable doing fencing and a bit more in my own body. So that's when my instructor showed me a triangle choke, which was like, what just happened? I didn't know how to tap out or anything. I just gagged. I realized that was incredibly powerful, and whatever this was, I needed to learn it. So that's when I began training jiu-jitsu informally in Santa Fe, 2003. Under CJ McCune, who was to be one of the sort of like dirty dozen of the female black belts in the US, much later on. We were both brown belts for a very, very long time, she and I. It's funny that way.
Wow, that's awesome. So that was in the US. And what brought you to Australia?
Sorry, I'm on country internet at the moment. So can you repeat that question? I just got the end of it.
Yeah. I just, in terms of your transition to Australia, how did you then move from the States?
Right. So I was born in Australia, and I grew up here and the States and elsewhere. And I got to 30 and I realized I hadn't seen my family in 15 years. And I was looking at trying to continue a career in jiu-jitsu at the time. This is about 2010s and on. And it was just very difficult. And I thought, life kind of looks better back in Australia for more people. And so I went and visited my family, and I got offered a full-time teaching position here. I was a brown belt at that time. And that was that, because that was what I really wanted to do. So I moved back.
With those early days, Ari, from going from fencing and then doing calisthenics and that sort of thing, how did you find the transition into like hands-on with a person? So fencing, obviously, there's this distance management, right? So was that the first sort of like obviously the triangle? You're like, what the hell is this? But like transitioning then into like hands-on, how was it for you? For so many people, like that can be like close proximity to someone can be the hardest part of jiu-jitsu, right? So how was that sort of the early days for you with that?
So I was much more given to striking at the time, which I was doing alongside this, because again, I just learn anything I could get into a class on. So I was terrible at it. I was a white belt for 4 years, and I really sucked. I did not understand that we're trying to learn and kind of play here and whatnot. Every roll was a fight, and that was, I think, nervous system kind of not knowing how to deal with that close body proximity. Like, I understood I was safe, but I was like, I'm going to use 100% of my strength because this is like, we're fighting, right? And that's fighting. And I never, for years and years, had anyone say, hey, let's just play. Let's have fun. You know, it did not occur to my brain or my body that that's what we were trying to do. Yeah, because I was in the back of my head like, well, I'm doing this because I want to train for if some sort of physical altercation happens. So it was a rough transition, and I was not a particularly great training partner for a lot of people. Yeah.
Do you think that that has that had any influence on you as a coach now, in terms of coaching people in the beginning of their grappling journey, in terms of like
Yeah.
encouraging them to play more and things like that? Or
No, absolutely. Most of us have come to jujitsu as adults, having forgotten how to crawl, having forgotten how to, sort of play grapple. And these are things we need to relearn in that safe and playful way. There was, like I said, there was no one that pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you're, being kind of rough, and it's totally not necessary or productive to your learning." There was no acknowledgement of being triggered, you know, in your body. Say like someone sits on you, you just hyperventilate because it really hasn't happened, and you can't get out. There was no awareness of these sorts of traumas that the body can carry and remember, that you can even pick up in training too if you're not in a supportive environment. So I very much offer beginners like, hey, know what tapping out is for, and it's not just because you're in a joint lock or a choke. It's for your full body and mental health safety as well. If you need to take moments off the side of the mat, if you don't want to roll with someone, if you want to stop the roll, you don't have to explain yourself. Take care of yourself and your safety first. And yeah, let's play to learn rather than beat the crap out of each other to learn.
I actually think that's probably one of the most important lessons for people who do jiu-jitsu that they can learn. Like being okay with just sitting there and saying like, no, thank you, I don't want to roll. Or
Mm.
stopping, as you say, like you don't have to tap when you're in a joint lock or a choke. Like if you're actually in an uncomfortable position, like now's the time, like sure, there are times where you need to work through being a little bit uncomfortable, but if it's triggering something and you're like, you know what, I need this to kind of stop now, the
Mm-hmm.
best thing about jiu-jitsu is you tap and it stops, so I think that's actually really important, for people to hear, Ari.
Yeah, and I'd like us to talk about that more. But I'm just happy that it is an awareness that is coming up in not just jujitsu, but most of the grappling arts as a convention for teaching beginners, um, regardless of their age.
yeah. I think also it's really important to encourage new people and smaller people especially to be able to speak up and to say, no, I'm not comfortable to partner with you, or this is too much for me at the moment. But I do know I have a lot of conversations with people who are quite uncomfortable to say that. Do you have any advice for people as a coach in terms of how they can be more assertive in their communication about that?
Um, well, it is having one's own agency. One of the conventions that perhaps doesn't foster acknowledging that you don't want to roll is, oh, we roll with anyone, or anyone can ask anyone to roll, and you can't say, or you should never say no to a higher belt, etc. These sorts of things, which I worked under for, decades. Just like you cannot say no if they're a higher belt, this hierarchical thing. Um, so yeah, it's just valuing one's own, what your body is telling yourself, not what other people are telling you, and that agency to speak about that. Um, because not acknowledging it will only lead to frustration, and that might make you take that back from jujitsu, from any kind of training, honestly.
I
So
actually think
fostering these
learning to say no is
conversations.
yeah, like learning to say no is an actual skill. Like there's a skill development in learning to say no, whether it's in jiu-jitsu or whether it's in life, like
Mm.
if if you can be taught how to say no and be clear in what that means on the mats, then maybe you can take that to other parts of your life as well, you know?
Yes. It's definitely something that I've seen incorporated in some very good sort of self-awareness seminars. I won't say self-defense per se. And also programs that are geared towards that. You know, they'll assign homework like low stakes sorts of things, like saying no. Say no to someone about something that's low stakes, you know, or can you tell a white lie? And the white lies might be something that will get you out of a dangerous situation. So these sorts of things as well.
And when did the wrestling come along? Was that always kind of there in the background and then it got pushed to the foreground, or where was it somewhere along the line through your jiu-jitsu journey that you kind of stepped into that realm?
Yeah, there were a couple things that happened. So starting jiu-jitsu in the States, of course you encounter wrestlers. Um, so there was a bit of that. And we would do, because I started such a while ago, there was that sensibility of, no, you're definitely starting from the feet. You need to be able to do something, and maybe not get thrown hard and fast. So we did always train takedowns, but I was never particularly good at them. You know, there was the one that I had my double leg, and it wasn't that great, which is what I would learn 15 years later. But I had something, and it didn't come to the forefront till I was 4 years into my brown belt, and I thought, well, the next thing is to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I cannot conceive of a black belt that I would, value who doesn't have a good base, whether that's judo or a type of wrestling. And so I didn't want that for myself. So I really started to focus on takedowns, which at the time I had a fantastic judo coach. So we did that, sort of the higher belts and the instructors, we pay him for class here and there and start doing that. But the real change came after I left full-time teaching in jiu-jitsu and joined the fire brigade. And now I had all of this time to train. And there were these opportunities for people who were competing in the women's division, Australians, wrestlers. And it was the new thing, the new toy. Wow, look at this special knowledge. It's totally different from what you have before. It's very new. You can form a new style almost, reinvent yourself. And you have enough of a base of grappling to not have to start completely from scratch. And I went to the nationals. And yeah, I took nationals. So that's what started on the wrestling journey. And just realizing the opportunities. It's a regulated sport, and you could go international, and there was support for that. It wasn't absolutely completely out of pocket to travel and compete, as it oftentimes is with jiu-jitsu. And I was just a bit tired of the gate. I don't know. Something new.
So your first wrestling match, how long had you been training wrestling? Like, were you kind of like, I've gone from, jiu-jitsu, a little bit of judo. Have you done wrestling, like a specific wrestling only class? Or were you just like, oh, okay.
Well, no, I hadn't done, say, a freestyle or a folk style geared class. It was always geared towards jiu-jitsu. And I met the Silverbacks, and they were very much encouraging me to, continue. And there was a comp coming up, and a woman who would become my best friend was like, well, there's this little comp, it's nothing, it's just Sydney Uni, whatever. It's like $15 to enter. It might have even been free at that time. I had not really done proper wrestling class. It was always integrated into the jiu-jitsu class or the judo class. Like maybe one class with the Silverbacks one Friday night. But no, not really. So I just jumped into that comp, and there were maybe 3 people in the women's division, and I did not know the rules, and she assured me that this was not a problem, which is a horrific thought when you're like a jiu-jitsu instructor and, you see so many people that don't know the rules jumping on the mats, and how painful that is for people involved. But yeah, and then I was like, well, I don't have shoes, because you must have shoes to do freestyle wrestling. And she's like, oh, what shoe size are you? 7. And so here's your shoes. First of many shoe shares between us. And then I was like, well, look, I don't have a singlet. Bang, here's a silverback singlet. You're good to go. And so I didn't, unfortunately, have any excuses left to not jump in on this. And I think I had 2 matches. And I won one, and then the other, jiu-jitsu going to her back, and that being completely fine, and that being absolutely not fine in wrestling. I lost that fight, and met Jess Levens McBain, who I'm very sure you've interviewed or should interview. And yeah, that was the first time that I met her.
Yeah, so you had the experience of just switching back into jiu-jitsu mode. Is that what you're saying? In your second match, you just autopiloted and thought, I'm good, I'm on my back, no problem.
Yes, you do not have the understanding of when you are on your back or when exactly your shoulders are tipped to give the other person points. And so, no, I didn't know the rules. And so I didn't know that, Jess was like racking up the points. And I was not okay. Yeah. Great learning
You mentioned
experience.
it just a second ago. You mentioned it a second ago, Ari, about the Silverbacks. They're obviously a big part of your life at the moment, and have been for a while. Do you want to give us a rundown on the Silverbacks as well, and how you became? Oh no, do I say how you became a Silverback, or how you became part of the Silverback team?
Silverbacks. Yeah. Well, realizing that I wanted to, leave jiu-jitsu for a while and go do other things. And I also very desperately needed community again. And so I actually didn't know a lot of other queer people in Sydney at that time. And so this is just like jiu-jitsu, like here's, ready-made community around this activity where we are, respecting each other in our bodies and working together. And so that's how I found the Silverbacks. They're part of an international network of queer and gender diverse and inclusive wrestling teams around the world. And they have been a family in a way that I had not found before in jiu-jitsu and any of the schools that I worked in. And yeah, they've been with me through all different sorts of iterations. Myself as a high level competitor, myself as, now making an oral history project with them. We travel together, go to comps, support each other when we want to have a go at competing. We are going to the Gay Games next year in Valencia in 2026. So that's how I met the Silverbacks, and we clicked. Training is only once a week, though, so obviously I was supplementing with whatever other kind of training I could get. Yeah.
Where are those games? So as you go and travel, so do those? Did you call it the Gay Games?
Yeah, the Gay Games.
Is that like every 4 years? Like, is that sort of like an Olympic thing? Can you tell us about that? Have you been before? Is this your first trip? Like, what? How does that work?
No, so the Gay Games were started by a former Olympian. They were called the Gay Olympics till they got, sued. So now
Of
they've been the Gay
course.
Games for a while. My first time was Paris, 2018, which was funny. We were using the same mats that I had competed on at the Wrestling Worlds, which was trippy. That was really great. It's the whole point of it was participation. So you'll have people that are elite, former elite, just people having a go. But the point is, it doesn't matter who you are, what your gender is, sexuality. Here is a place that you can compete and feel welcome to do that in a great variety of sports. So every 4 years, it's hosted by a different city. Various cities have to make bids. It will be in, drumroll, Perth in 2030. We won it. So see you guys.
I was just going to say, like, it'd be amazing if an Australian, city like Sydney or Melbourne or Perth or something could get it. So that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll definitely be over there helping set up the Silverbacks and myself. I've been pushing the grappling section of it. So United World Wrestling, which is the World Federation for Wrestling that governs that Olympic sport, have started to create a gi and a no gi division, essentially. And knowing the number of people in jiu-jitsu and, also the queer people in jiu-jitsu that want to, do compete or try to, I've been trying to merge those two groups through the gay games in Paris. We had the first iteration of the grappling, which is the no-gi, and we did it again in Guadalajara, and we'll be doing it again in Valencia. And bit by bit, trying to get the word out there. If you have problems competing, here's a place to come. It's every 4 years. You can save up money. There are ways we can fundraise for each other, which is what we do for 4 years. Yeah.
You mentioned as well about the oral history project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So back in the 90s, sort of around gay male hookup culture, there was a sort of fetishization of wrestling. And one of the men that was into that was like, hey, I actually like this as a sport. I'm an amateur athlete, and I'd really like to see us have a group that is also sport. Like, that's fine, but also sport. And that was Barry Webb. And he is now retired up in Newcastle. And just seeing as our elders in the community, are getting older, and the need to capture this history that's now 3 decades long. That's why we started the Oral History Project. We're not historians, but it's a very accessible way, much like podcasting, to directly get people's stories. And we'll collate those into a sort of narrative about the club, and we hope to publish that book next year.
Ari, you were mentioning about community. Something that I know that within the jiu-jitsu scene that is a very strong community is Australian Girls in Gi. And I know you've had a bit of involvement with that. You involved with some of the camps and the comps, and you actually headlined one of the camps. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, Jess and I mean, who involved in jiu-jitsu in Australia has not heard of Jess. And we very much knew about each other for a while, but we never worked on anything. There wasn't a heap of crossover. And honestly, I didn't get much out of the school outside of it that I was teaching at, to engage anyone sort of outside of our association and whatnot for quite a while. So one of the things in leaving that was, that ability to start to reconnect and find those other connections that were always possible. And Jess was one of those, and Girls in Gis. And it had started with Hope. Hope contacted me knowing that I had gotten into the wrestling, and she wanted to do some wrestling training. And that kind of ended up with me going, no, you need to stand like this. And then doing some privates for her in wrestling. And then they invited me to do the wrestling camp for Girls in Gis, and being involved sort of with that and since. And it's been a fantastic way for me to reconnect with the jiu-jitsu community. Just very much worked on that. And I'm very happy she did and persisted. And she actually gave me my black belt a couple of years ago at one of the camps, which was the beautiful way to do it after 19 years of being in the sport. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at another camp, Girls in Gi camp, where it was Kirsty Mather got her black belt.
Yes.
And I think that's really important for women to see other women, being promoted to that level. Can you tell us a little bit about that day when you got your black belt, Ari?
Sure. I mean, I didn't know it was going to happen. Jess and I had talked about it because in reconnecting, of course, we were talking about our experiences in jiu-jitsu and reviewing, our lives professionally and personally. And the fact that I had not received my black belt was sort of on my mind, and understanding that, well, I do want to engage and come back to the jiu-jitsu community, but it feels strange to be, at 9 or however many years I was at brown belt, and then, coming back, and Jess says, look, this is something that I can do for you if you want it, and it is freely given, which, quite frankly, it never had been before. That was never, it always came as, the dangled carrot or something with ties and limitations and obligations, and restrictions. And that is absolutely not what it was, when she offered it to me. And then, she sort of asked a little bit more. Well, who would you like to be there? Do you want it as a big thing? Do you want it to be witnessed? Do you not? And these sorts of things. And I was just very open to whatever. Well, I decided I wanted it to be witnessed, and I didn't need to know when it was going to happen, and it was fine. It was just something that was going to happen, and I felt great about that. I kind of like surprises, so left it at that. Went to the camp. People who I wanted to be, around my black belt was given were there. I didn't really think anything of it because we always show up, and we all lined up. The brown and black belts who were at that camp, and Jess took off her black belt and asked the question after a big sigh, what does this black belt mean to you? And so we all went down the line and talked about what a black belt means to us, who that person is. And then she gave me my black belt. Yeah.
Do you remember your answer to that question? Because that's a really good question.
Yeah, it is a great question. I do. So for me, a black belt is obviously a recognition of dedication and skill level, but it is also, and I believe this is because I was instructor for such a long time. It's a rank, that connotes power. I don't mean necessarily power over people, but it is a status. And what good is power if you do not empower others? If you do not share that? All of these grappling arts, we must work with each other, and share of ourselves. And so for me, that is what a black belt is someone who empowers others through this art, through sharing it with them, through fostering those connections and building the art.
That's really cool to hear, I think, Ari, and I think you've worded that beautifully. I also think from what you just spoke about getting all of your other belts that had ties and limitations and expectations, and, as you said, like it was always something that was dangled as a carrot. I think then to get your black belt in that way and with the freedom of the words that you just chose, I think that's really amazing and very, very powerful, mate. So, so well done. You worded that beautifully.
Thank you. It's definitely something I've had a lot of years to think about, and why I didn't pursue it until, reconnecting with Jess and Girls and Geese and that whole community.
Yeah, and I also think that's probably a really good place to finish up, a really nice note to end on. Thank you so much, Ari, for giving up your time. I know it took us, you're a super busy, I guess, with being a firefighter, etc., and the shift work that comes with it. So this took us a little bit of time to coordinate, but I'm so glad that we did it and that we've got to share your journey and your story. Brendos just has a couple of pop quiz questions that we ask to all our guests here at the end, so you can make the answers as short or as long as you like.
All right.
All right, mate. Let's do this. iPhone or Samsung?
Samsung.
Legend. Strength or flexibility?
Ooh. I don't think they really work one without the other. But I've never been that flexible, so I guess strength.
I don't think you can, in your role, I don't think you can just be flexible and carry everything. So probably strength is pretty important too, right?
Yeah, it does underlie. Yeah.
Pasta or rice?
Rice.
What's your favorite belt that you've been at?
Favorite belt? Probably Purple or now black. Purple was definitely the old school jiu-jitsu in the States, the formation of the American girls and gis, knowing all those people, seeing, the crazy people that were hanging in there as female practitioners and non-binary practitioners trying to make a go of it. And that's now even more precious, knowing that we all did it. Yeah, so purple or black, yeah, now is good as well.
They have been our two most popular answers to that question, yeah? 100%. You've followed on with what everyone else says, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got a favorite takedown that you like? Yeah. What's a favorite takedown that you like?
Look, I know it should be the firefighters, but it isn't. I just love me a good double leg, lifted especially. I also love suplexes, but it's it's hard to catch them. They are glorious when you hit it, though.
I like the sound of that. I don't want to be a part of it, though.
Oh, come on.
I've got... All right, I'm in. All right, I've got two more for you. Number one, can you drive a manual car?
Yes.
I knew that would be the answer. And the second one, do you wear Crocs?
Absolutely not. There's only so many stereotypes
Yeah,
to participate in. Yeah. It's a very controversial thing at station as well.
Oh, right. Magnificent. That was really good.
Very good. Awesome. So, as I said, thank you once again for giving up your time, Ari, and for the manipulating the technical issues that we encountered on this episode, which many of our guests have not been able to. So, thank you once again. Also for your contribution to the grappling world of Australia. It's fantastic. And as you were saying before we hit record, that it is really now coming through in the no-gi scene, the wrestling, the importance of having that wrestling understanding. And it's great that you've managed to come back to jiu-jitsu via sort of through the wrestling and then through Australian Girls in Gi, etc. So thank you for all that you've done for grappling in Australia.
I mean, yes, thank you for recording all of these interviews and our history and keeping it alive and fun. I hope I get to see you both on the mats, whether that's jiu-jitsu or wrestling, both, hopefully. And I hope that wasn't too choppy. I do apologize.
Nah, all good, Ari. Thank you, mate. It was really good. Really enjoyed it. All the best for the gay games for you and the entire community. If that's something that you feel would be beneficial in your life, or it was something that you wanted to maybe check out and become part of that community. If you're not already involved in something like that, I'm sure Ari would be able to steer you in the right direction or point you towards clubs and that sort of thing. So that would be really good. All the best for the Silverbacks going forward at every overseas tournament and trips that you guys do. So all the best for that stuff. But we will leave it there. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Roll or Die. Please remember to like, rate, and share the podcast. If you are on any of the podcast platforms, subscribe, press that button, YouTube, subscribe on there. That'd be really cool. But that's it. Thank you, Kim. Another amazing guest that you've sort of researched and got for us. So we appreciate that. But that's it. We'll finish it there and we will see you next week for another episode of Roll or Die.
Just quickly before we stop there, I just want to say one last thing. Sorry, something that has just come to me now that I guess has come through with this conversation for any of our listeners, who might be perhaps struggling with their own journey. Just take a leaf out of Ari's book and see that there are other options out there for you. So maybe you're not feeling great about your grappling or your community that you're in, but there's definitely other options. There's other communities out there that you can join, and that's we're all one big love with the grappling world. So know that you can absolutely stay within the scene, maybe just in a slightly different angle to it all. So hopefully some people got something out of this podcast. And as Brentos said, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you on the mats. Take care.
Cheers, y'all.